He still had my lipstick on his collar when the little girl opened the door and called him Daddy. I remember everything about that second. The cheap brass number nailed crooked beside the apartment door. The smell of frying onions drifting in from somewhere down the hall. My overnight bag sliding out of my numb hand and hitting the concrete with a soft thud. The way my husband, went so still beside me that the hallway seemed to freeze around him. And the girl, big brown eyes, one sock on, one sock off, hair half braided, like someone had started getting her ready for bed and gotten distracted. She looked up at him and smiled. Daddy, Mama said. Then she saw me. Kids know when a room turns bad. They feel it in the air before adults admit it. Her smile slipped. Behind her, a woman's voice floated from inside the apartment. Warm and ordinary and so intimate it made my skin go cold. Who is it, baby? I turned to look at my husband. No, not husband. I didn't know what he was anymore. His face had gone pale under the hallway light. Not guilty pale. Terrified pale. The kind of pale a man wears when his two lives have just slammed into each other hard enough to break bones. Lena, he said quietly, and I had never heard my name sound like that before, like a prayer dragged over broken glass. I can explain. I laughed. Not because anything was funny, because if I didn't laugh, I was going to start screaming and maybe never stop. The woman appeared in the doorway then, wiping her damp hands on a dish towel. She was pretty in a soft, tired kind of way. Not polished. Real. Housewarm. Wearing an old gray cardigan and leggings. There was flour on one wrist. She looked like she belonged to the apartment. To the child. To the life inside. Then her eyes landed on him. And then on me. And just like that, her whole face emptied out. I knew. She knew. Not everything. Not yet. But enough. Who is this? She asked. Nobody answered. The little girl pressed into her leg. My husband swallowed once. I watched his throat move and thought, absurdly, that I had kissed that throat an hour ago in our car when he told me he had a late meeting and I had surprised him by insisting on dropping off the files myself. That same throat, same skin, same liar. The woman's voice sharpened. Ryan. Who is she? Ryan. Even hearing his name from her mouth felt like cheating. He turned to me first. That was the part that really made me hate him. Not that he lied. Not even that he lied this badly. It was that in the worst moment of his life, some stupid part of him still wanted to control the damage. Please, he said under his breath. Not here. My heart slammed so hard it hurt. Not here. There was a child in the doorway calling him Daddy and he wanted dignity. I stepped closer, close enough to see the sweat beginning at his hairline. Then I looked at the woman and said, very clearly, I'm his wife. Silence. The kind that has weight. The dish towel slid from her fingers. The little girl looked up at her, confused. Mama. The woman's mouth opened, then closed. Ryan reached for me. Reflex. Panic. I jerked back before he could touch me. No, my voice came out raw. Do not put your hands on me. The girl flinched. The woman pulled her behind her, and something fierce lit in her face. Not at me. At him. How long? She asked. And because this night had not finished strangling me yet, I realized she wasn't asking me. She was asking him. As if there was an answer ugly enough to satisfy either of us. Ryan looked between us like a man trying to stop a fire by cupping his hands around it. Nadia. Don't say my name. Her voice cracked so hard it cracked something in me too. Don't you dare. I should have left then. I know that. Any sane woman would have turned around, walked out of that hallway, gotten in the car, and let the shock hit her in private. But sane women are not always the ones who get betrayed like this. Sometimes betrayal makes you mean, makes you hungry, makes you want to dig your fingers into the wound just to see how deep it goes. So I stayed. I picked up my overnight bag and walked straight into the apartment like I had every right to be there, because apparently I did. The place was small, warm, lived in. A child's crayons on the coffee table, tiny pink sandals by the couch, family photos on the wall. My body stopped before my mind did. There he was in the pictures. Ryan, smiling, holding the little girl on his shoulders at a park, standing beside Nadia in front of a birthday cake while she laughed at something off camera, wearing the same watch I gave him for our second anniversary. I felt something hot and savage move through my chest. Take her into the bedroom, I heard myself say to Nadia. She stared at me. Maybe because I sounded too calm. Maybe because calm is scarier than tears sometimes. The little girl clutched her cardigan. Mama, who is she? Nadia never looked away from me. Go inside, Hira. The girl hesitated. Ryan crouched a little, trying to sound gentle, like he still had the right. Baby, listen to Mama. I snapped my head toward him so fast my neck hurt. Don't. He straightened slowly. Nadia took the child down the hallway, not fully into the bedroom. I could hear the soft murmur of her voice, the rustle of sheets, the small frightened questions. Then she came back alone and shut the door behind her. Now it was just the three of us. Husband, wife. I almost smiled at the ugliness of that. Ryan ran a hand over his face. Please sit down. I folded my arms. Start with her. Nadia laughed once, short and bitter. Funny. I was going to say start with you. His shoulders sagged. For the first time since the hallway, he looked less like a polished corporate husband and more like what he really was, a man running out of places to hide. I met Nadia before you, he said. The sentence hit the room and kept hitting. My skin went cold. Before me. That made it worse in a very specific way, because suddenly I could feel the edges of another life forming around the lie I already knew. Nadia stared at him. What does that mean? He looked at her, then at me. It means, he inhaled shakily. It means when I met Lena, things with us were already over. You were living together. Nadia's voice rose. I was pregnant. He flinched. Pregnant. Of course it got filthier. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. You told me, I said slowly, that your ex had cheated on you. He shut his eyes. Nadia's head whipped toward him. Ex. There it was. That tiny little moment when another floor gave way. I could almost admire the architecture of his lies if I didn't want to put my fist through his face. She wasn't my ex, Nadia said, staring at him like she wanted him to deny it. Was she? He said nothing. That was answer enough. I started laughing again, but now it hurt. My chest, my throat, everything. So what was I? I asked. The promotion wife? The clean apartment wife? The one you could take to office dinners because I fit better in your life on paper? Lena. No, I want the truth. Nadia stepped closer too. One hand braced on the back of a chair so hard her knuckles went white. So do I. His eyes moved between us, frantic now. And I saw it. Not remorse. Not first. Fear. Fear of losing control of the story. I knew that look. I had seen it in meeting rooms, at charity galas, in the slight tightening around his mouth, when a deal shifted unexpectedly. Ryan hated being cornered. Hated not having the upper hand. Good. I wanted him cornered. I married Lena 2 years ago, he said. My stomach dropped even though I knew that part, because of what it meant to her. Nadia actually swayed. Too. Her lips parted. Then she looked at the photos. The child's toys. The couch. The life. As if seeing it from outside for the first time. How long have you been coming here? I asked. On and off, he said. I stared at him. On and off. My voice came out so quiet that his eyes flicked to me sharply. Because quiet is dangerous. Quiet means the blade is already in. You came home to me, I said, smelling like another apartment, another kitchen, another child, and called it overtime. His face changed. Finally there was shame. It was not enough. Not even close. Nadia crossed her arms around herself like she had suddenly gotten cold. Were you ever going to tell either of us? I was trying to fix it. That did it. I moved before I realized I had decided to. 1 second I was across the room. The next I was in front of him. Close enough to smell his cologne under the sweat. Close enough to see the pulse jumping in his neck. You don't get to use that word. I spoke through my teeth. Not tonight. His eyes dropped to my mouth for a second. That tiny reflex. That old intimacy. God, I hated it. Because my body still knew him. Even then, even while my brain was full of broken glass, some traitorous part of me still remembered what it felt like when he stood too close in the kitchen and slid a hand around my waist. When he loosened his tie in the dark and looked at me like I was the only soft thing in his whole hard world. That was the filthiest part of betrayal. Not that the love dies instantly. That it doesn't. That it keeps breathing for a while after the knife goes in. I stepped back, so suddenly my heel clipped the rug. Nadia noticed. Her eyes narrowed in a way that said she understood more than I wanted her to. How did you meet him? She asked me. Ryan's head snapped toward her. Nadia. I looked at her. There was no softness in her face now. Only rawness, fury, humiliation. The ugly sisterhood men force on women, and then pretend not to recognize. At a fundraiser, I said. He was charming, helpful, married to his work, he said. I smiled without humor. Apparently that wasn't the only thing he was married to. Nadia let out a sound that could have been a laugh or a sob. He told me he was building everything for us, she said. That he needed time. That his business was unstable. That once it was safe, we'd do things properly. I swallowed. Different script. Same voice. A tiny pulse of rage moved between us. Not at each other. At him. Ryan saw it too. I know how this looks. I turned on him. How this looks. Nadia's voice sliced right over mine. How this looks. He backed up a step. Good. For the first time all night, he looked like he realized he might not be able to talk his way out of the room. Then his phone buzzed. The sound was obscene. He looked down automatically. I saw the screen light up, and for one insane second I thought, another woman. I lunged before I could think better of it, and snatched the phone from his hand. Lena. Too late. The message on the lock screen read, "Did you tell either of them yet? Because if not, I will." No name. Just a number. The room went dead still. Nadia stared at the screen. Then at him. Then at me. I looked up slowly. There's more. He said nothing. Which was, by then, a confession. I laughed again, and this time it sounded ugly even to me. Of course there is. Nadia took a step back from him like he had started to smell rotten. Who is that? It's not what you think. I wanted to hit him. Nadia beat me to it. The slab cracked through the apartment so sharply that the little girl whimpered from the bedroom. All three of us froze. Nadia covered her mouth. For 1 second, her whole face crumpled. Then she did something that told me exactly what kind of woman she was. She swallowed the breakdown, shoved it somewhere private, straightened, walked to the bedroom door and cracked it open just enough to murmur, "It's okay, baby. Go back to bed. Mama's here." Her voice was soft, steady. It destroyed me more than if she had screamed, because I suddenly understood the shape of her life with him. Waiting, believing, holding things together while he moved between worlds like he owned every room he entered. When she came back, she shut the door carefully behind her. Then she looked at me, not him, me, and asked, "Do you want to know everything?" Ryan's head jerked up. "Nadia." She ignored him. My heart was beating so hard it hurt. "Yes," I said. She walked to a drawer under the TV stand and pulled out a thick brown envelope. My blood ran cold. She held it like she'd held it before, like it had weight she knew too well. "I found this 3 months ago," she said. Ryan actually moved toward her. "Don't." Her eyes flashed. "Touch me and I swear to God." He stopped. She handed the envelope to me. Inside were copies, hotel receipts, bank transfers, photos. Not of me. Other women, different cities, different dates. Same man, same watch, same smile, same expensive shirts with sleeves rolled to the forearm like he thought women found competence irresistible. Maybe we did. I had. My fingertips went numb on the paper. There were notes too. Printed emails. Fragments of messages. Enough to draw a line not just between two lives. Between many. How many? I asked, but my voice came out faint. Ryan raked both hands through his hair. It wasn't like that. I looked up. It was exactly like that. Nadia leaned against the wall like her legs might not hold much longer. I stayed after I found out about 2 of them. I stared at her. She stared right back. No shame in her face. Only exhaustion and fury, and the brutal honesty women sometimes offer each other when there's nothing left to protect. I stayed because of Hira, she said. Because he cried. Because he said it was over. Because he said men like him get lost when too many people need pieces of them. Her laugh was tiny and vicious. I wanted to believe I was the piece he came home to. I thought about my apartment, my side of the closet, his coffee mug by the sink, the way he kissed the top of my head absent-mindedly when reading emails at the kitchen island. Domestic little acts. The kind that make a woman feel chosen. How cheap those acts look now. How mass-produced. I wanted to throw up. Why did you marry me? I asked. That question landed different. Harder. Because he had no good lie ready for it. He looked at me for a long time. Long enough that something in my chest started breaking in a slower, quieter way. Then he said, because I loved you. I slapped him. I had never slapped anyone in my life. The sting shot straight at my palm. His face turned with the impact. When he looked back at me, something dark had entered his expression. Not violence. Something more manipulative. More familiar. Wounded control. Don't do that, he said softly. That tone. That low, warning tone. My whole body reacted before my mind did. A little old instinct. A little marital instinct. The one that says ease it down. Don't escalate. Keep the peace. And the second I felt that instinct, I hated myself for it. Nadia saw it too. Maybe not the instinct itself, but the history behind it. Her voice changed when she spoke next. Has he ever scared you? The room snapped into focus. Ryan's head turned sharply. Enough. I looked at Nadia. Her eyes were fixed on me. Not curious. Knowing. Not. Did he hit you? Worse. Has he ever scared you? Because there are 1,000 ways a man can make a woman smaller without leaving marks anyone photographs. I thought of the nights he went cold when I questioned him. The way silence sat in the house like punishment. The way he would hold my chin during arguments and make me look at him while he explained why I was being emotional, dramatic, unfair. The way apology somehow always ended with me crying first. I did not answer. I didn't need to. Nadia closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, there was no softness left for him at all. You need to leave, she said to me. For 1 second, I thought she meant me. Then she pointed at him. No, her voice hardened. You, get out. Ryan stared at her. This is my apartment. Her face changed. Became almost calm. I signed the lease, she said. In my name. Remember? Back when you said it was easier for your taxes. Something flickered in his eyes. Not rage. Calculation. There he was again. My polished husband. Her provider. Their father. The man always scanning for leverage. I'm not leaving my daughter in this atmosphere. Nadia stepped forward. You built this atmosphere. He looked at me then, and I knew what he was doing. Looking for softness. Looking for the version of me that would smooth this over. Take him home. Let him spin the story somewhere quieter. He even used my voice name. The private one. Lena. My stomach turned. God. I used to love the way he said it. Now it felt like a hand on the back of my neck. Don't call me that, I whispered. He went still. Nadia crossed her arms. Get out. For a moment I thought he might refuse. Then his phone buzzed again in my hand. Still unlocked from before. Another message. This one with a name. Mira, I'm outside. I looked at the screen, then at him, then toward the apartment window. Nadia's face drained, and in that exact second, all three of us understood the same thing. There was another woman here, outside, right now. No, Nadia said. Not to him, to the universe. I moved before anyone could stop me and yanked back the curtain. A black car idled under the street lamp. A woman sat inside. Pretty, elegant, red mouth, dark hair. The kind of woman who knew exactly how beautiful she was and had been told often enough to stop pretending otherwise. She was looking up at the building. At this building. At this apartment. My skin went cold in layers. He whispered my name. I didn't even turn. Which one is she? I asked. He said nothing. Which one? I repeated. Is she? Nadia was beside me now, shoulder almost brushing mine. I could feel the heat of her fury. The way her breathing had changed. His silence said enough. Not a stranger. Not a mistake. A recurring problem. Maybe another home. Maybe another set of keys. Unbelievable, Nadia whispered. I almost laughed again, because unbelievable was exactly the wrong word. This was very believable now. Pain has a logic. Once you see the pattern, every ugly piece clicks into place. I turned from the window and looked at him for what felt like the first honest time since I met him. He was still handsome. That annoyed me. Still broad-shouldered and composed in that expensive way men like him cultivate. Even cornered, even sweating, even with slap marks on both cheeks, he looked like the kind of man women leaned toward before they knew better. I wondered how many of us there had been. How many kitchens? How many lies tailored to fit the woman hearing them? And then the darkest thought of all slid quietly into place. Maybe this wasn't the first time two of us had met. Maybe it was just the first time he had failed to control the collision. My mouth went dry. Nadia, I said slowly, eyes still on him. 3 months ago when you found that envelope, why didn't you leave? She was quiet for so long I thought she wouldn't answer. Then she said, because someone called me first. A chill ran down my spine. I turned to her. What? She looked at him now, not me. There was a woman, crying so hard I could barely understand her. She told me to check his email. Told me he had done this before. Told me if I stayed, I needed copies of everything. The room tilted. I thought of the anonymous message. Did you tell either of them yet? Because if not, I will. Not just another woman. Maybe the same one. Maybe the one who had been trying to pull us into the light before he buried us separately in our own lies. What was her name? I asked. Nadia swallowed. Sarah. Ryan closed his eyes. My pulse jumped. I knew that name. Not personally. From his phone. Months ago. A late-night call he dismissed with a smooth little smile and a casual, old client. Bit unstable. I hadn't questioned it because he kissed my shoulder after and asked if I wanted dessert, and apparently betrayal comes with sugar if it's packaged well. Where is she now? I asked. No one answered. I looked at him. For the first time that night, real fear moved through me. Not the fear of heartbreak. Not humiliation. Something colder. Ryan, I said. Where is she now? His face gave me nothing. That was what did it. Not a confession. Not a denial. Nothing. Nadia saw it too. I felt her body go rigid beside mine. Then, from outside, a car door slammed. All three of us turned toward the window. The woman from the black car had stepped out. Heels on wet pavement. Bare head in the cold. One hand gripping a phone. She looked up at the apartment with the expression of someone who was done waiting to be invited in. My pulse hammered. Ryan moved fast then. Too fast. Toward the door. Instinct. Control again. Stop the next collision before it hit. I stepped right into his path. He stopped so close I could smell the mint on his breath. See the tiny broken vein at the edge of one eye. The familiar crease near his mouth that used to make him look tired and human and now only made him look dangerous. Move, he said quietly. I felt the fine hairs rise on the back of my neck. There it was. The thing Nadia had asked. Not hitting, not shouting. That. The low voice. The closeness. The warning wrapped in calm. My body reacted first. Heart stutter. Breath catch. And then something else happened. I got angry. Really angry. The kind that burns clean. I lifted my chin and said, "Make me." His eyes darkened. For one electric second, the whole room held its breath. Then the doorbell rang. Once. Soft. Almost polite. Nobody moved. It rang again. And this time, from the bedroom, the little girl's sleepy voice called out, "Mama? Who keeps coming to our door?" Nadia made a sound like her heart had just split open. I never looked away from him. Neither did he. The bell rang a third time. Then a woman's voice came through the door. Clear. Cold. Familiar in the way a nightmare is familiar once you've had it twice. "Ryan," she called. "Open up, or I'll tell them what happened to Sarah." That was the moment I knew this night was not about cheating. Not really. Cheating was only the first layer. Underneath it was something darker. And standing inches from my husband, my stranger, I realized I had no idea whether I was looking at a liar, a coward, or a man who had already done something so ugly that women had started warning each other like survivors passing notes through a locked door. The bell rang again. He whispered my name. Not Lena this time. Lena. Full. Careful. Like he wanted to remind me who I was before the next secret hit. Too late. I reached past him, put my hand on the door handle, and opened it.